What's up, everyone? It's your favorite Egyptian pharaoh, Wu Amenhotep II, and today I have quite the story time I think you'll enjoy. So, no more delays, crack open that soda, unwrap that sandwich, and enjoy. There comes a time where after school ends, whether after high school you continue scholastic education and attend college, maybe a trade slash vocational school, or if you're done with school altogether, usually the most common and practical thing to go do next is get a job of some sort, and I was no different. I went to school and I worked a part time job at a grocery store. Now, this job was pretty decent, all things considered. It was within walking distance from my house, so the fact that I didn't have a car was fine while I saved up for one. What wasn't so great was that the area just was not that great. Um, in the area, there's been a bunch of shootings, couple stabbings, shoplifting in grocery plazas like the one I worked at was a near daily thing. And on top of that, there was just a huge epidemic of tweakers who'd hang around, strung out of their minds because they're junkies. Um, I actually have a story regarding a tweaker pepper spray incident that I could make another video about. But what I wanted to talk to you about today was fights. Now, fighting wasn't a horribly uncommon thing to see at my job, especially because of the area, but most of the fights, well, you can't see me, but I air quoted that because most of the times, like 8 out of 10 times, they never got past the yelling bravado shtick. And you know what I'm talking about, the you want to go, bro? Catch me outside. I think you're a bitch. Yeah, well, you think I'm a bitch? I think your shoes stink. Um, that sort of part, the initial part. And the other times where there was actual physical contact made, it was that sort of middle school shove, where you take your shoulder and, your one kid shoulder checks another kid they don't like. And maybe the other person shoulder checks them back before a teacher breaks it up or something. Where basically they're afraid to throw an actual punch, but they kind of want. What I'm saying is that's the most it would come up to. Now, I know some of you must be thinking, Woo, you just said the area was brutal, like Friday or Boys in the Hood activities. What do you mean there's these lousy fights taking place? Where's that WWE chair slam and those RKOs I want to hear about? I want to hear about, wannabe Hulk Hogan versus Batista. But that really just didn't happen except for a couple of times, and as you've guessed by the total by the title of the story, this is one of those times. Now, on this particular day, I was working the front end cashier, scanning customers' items, making generic small talk, asking them things like, how's it going? Find everything you need today. Very corporate stamp of approval. And out of nowhere, I hear very loud yelling, and at first I thought it was coming from outside in the parking lot, but as it continues, I see everyone gather around the back end of the store towards the freezer section, and so I walk over and I see it's coming from the deli cooler. Now, what I see are these two guys in each other's faces. Now, mind you, I have no idea what started all this, and my coworker, who was actually working in the deli, also had no idea what caused it. For all I know, one guy said, "Excuse me, brah, I need to get by and get the eggs," and the other guy did the whole Zoolander, "I'm not your brah." Anyway, so they start arguing, calling each other some not so nice words. And like I said, it's these two dudes. One of them's like a tall 6'1", 6'2" grizzly bear, and the other guy is a just much smaller 5'6" scrawny dude. And both of these dudes have their girlfriends with them, and they're both yelling to drop, saying like drop it, it's just not worth it. The big guy just lunges and chokes out the smaller guy. And my boss and I, who are both at the entrance of the deli, both leave to call the police as per protocol. Now, listen, I am not a small man myself. I'm a pretty tall 6'2" guy, but I'm not getting in the middle of that. I like Batman. I wasn't gonna but I just was not going to play Batman in that situation. Also, workers just aren't allowed to get in the middle of it because we could get hurt, and that's a lot of paperwork, or something else could happen that would also cause a lot of paperwork. Just overall common sense law to have in place when you stop to think about it. Um, anyways, they start thrashing about, and obviously the big guy's winning at first, but the short dude, he's really holding his own and all. And the shorter guy goes on his tippy toes, I guess, and he uses the bottom shelf like as a platform to jump off, and punches the other guy on the bridge of his nose, which he just lets go of him immediately. And the smaller guy, is now making his way out of the parking lot, and right as I'm coming back to work, I had just got off the phone with the police, and I'm going back to return to work, and he's passing me through the exit, and then as I get back to the tel, I have this big guy who, the big guy who's choking out the smaller guy, has the gall to continue shopping like nothing happened. And so they come up to the front of my register, and I hear his girlfriend yelling at him as they're walking up, telling him, like, that you're an idiot, how he always does this. And, when I hear you're such an idiot, you always do this, my mind, just wants to know what has happened. Like, does he just go to Costco and someone parked too close to him and he just turns into the Incredible Hulk and Hulk smash, that person's car? But anyway, so they come up to my stand and they want to purchase a ribeye. And in all honesty, I should have just kicked them out, but I was flabbergasted. So I just ring them up and left. And, 30 minutes later, the girl comes back and asks me if I've seen a phone. Maybe his phone flung out of his pocket under one of the shelves during his Homer Simpson impersonation. And the other dude's girlfriend is still in the store mean mugging the other girl. And I'm confused because, during the whole fight, they were both, saying, hey, stop it, leave it alone, it's not that big deal. But, I'm just starting to think it's round two, is coming and the girls are tapping in. But luckily that just doesn't happen. But the cops show up, and I want to say it's like 5 or 6 cop cars, and they stop to talk to the guy who got choked out for a while doing whatever it is they need to. Then, they leave. He doesn't get arrested or nothing, no handcuffs. They probably just thought getting his ass kicked was enough, I guess. But the other dude did start it, so I'm kind of glad that that happened. But it just seems like they they took his side and left. But yeah, that's about all the time left I have of this story time. I tried to stretch it as much as I could, get the juicy details out of there, but we're talking about maybe a 5-minute fight, so I think I did all right. Let me know in the comments if you like these type of videos. Those surprisingly pretty short. If you want longer, let me know. I'll try to. If you want shorter, I'd say you're crazy, but I mean, I'll see what I can do. Um, with all that being said, we've reached the end of our story time here, and I want to thank each and every one of you who stayed till the end to be here. I hope I see y'all again soon. In the meantime, avoid the do-ot. Deuces.